Welcome back to Man Down Sports. As you can see from the thumbnail, we're talking about Kevin Durant. And as you can see from the rundown on the left side, it might be the wrong right side for y'all, but yeah, we got a lot of topics to talk about after Thanksgiving. A good weekend of NBA and in season play. What do they call it? In season tournament play, and the MVP ladder is changing. It should be changing, and all of that stuff, man, and a whole bunch of other stuff going around the league that I wanted to discuss. But I want to start with Kevin Durant. Before I get started, make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube. Head over to YouTube if you're watching us from Facebook and do that. Hit that thumbs up on your way in. Leave a comment on your way out. Do all that stuff, man, to help the channel. Also, we got to have a word from our sponsor, man. This episode is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy is the best place to play fantasy sports. I want to tell you about the easiest way to get in on some NBA action with Underdog Fantasy and their pick'em game. Just find your favorite player, or any player for that matter, pick higher or lower on that player's stats, and you can win up to 20 times your money in one night. Pick between 2 or 5 players to fill your pick'em entry. Get every pick right, and you can net yourself some serious cash. Use the promo code ManDownSports, and you can get your deposit doubled up to $100. You got to check on the map to make sure your state is eligible to play Underdog Fantasy. But as soon as you do, and if your state is, go ahead and download Underdog Fantasy's app. Use the promo code ManDownSports, and you can, like I said, you can get that $100 match on your first deposit. And I would want to thank Underdog Fantasy for sponsoring Man Down Sports. All right, so Kevin Durant was the topic of discussion on Gil's Arena podcast. It was Rashad McCants, Gilbert Arenas, of course, Josiah, one of the co-hosts, and Lexi Brown, WNBA player. I think she's the daughter of D. Brown, former Boston Celtic slam dunk champion. So they was having a good conversation, and Rashad McCants said something that's probably going to piss a lot of LeBron fans off. And I can't wait to do so, because I want to hear what y'all think in the comment section. I know y'all gonna go nuts. Rashad McCants saying something, and Gilbert Arenas kind of, you can say he kind of second that. And Gilbert Arenas, like fashion, he kind of took it somewhere else, because Gilbert Arenas, JJ Redick, some now Kevin Garnett, some of these new guys, they're full into, let's turn the page on the old school. Like, it's disrespectful to them to have the NBA and the NBA media and people like Stephen A. Smith and Skip Bayless, the old regime, those type of people, so openly support the old school, Magic, Michael, Bird, and they would not let anybody from the new school surpass them in their mind. And then they'll go ahead and they're pushing it out to their audience members, and people like Gilbert Arenas think they're doing a disservice to the NBA and people like LeBron James. So every chance they get, it don't matter what conversation is, if it has to do with NBA and it has to do with discussing war players' rank and things of that nature, Gilbert Arenas he's the opposition to the old school. But the funny thing about it is, when it's convenient, he's supporting the old school, depending on what the topic is. So you got to catch Gilbert Arenas. He's a joker, so a lot of the stuff he says in jest. He goes to the extreme with what he says, like, players in the 70s and 80s couldn't do X, Y, and Z. He just talked bad about him, and it's hilarious. I got to give it to him. It is funny. But a lot of people take what he says serious. And sometimes he's not always serious about it. And he's already admitted to, I purposely do that. I'm pro LeBron for a whole 2 weeks. I'm saying a whole bunch of LeBron support and stuff. And then the next 2 weeks after that, I'm pro Michael Jordan, So you just got to know that about Gilbert Arenas when you hear what he's saying, and you got to be able to decipher that. But let's take a listen to what Rashad McCants and Gilbert Arenas said about this situation with Kevin Durant.
I think that the real hoopers know that Kevin Durant is going to go down as a better basketball player
than
LeBron. At the end of the road, not right now. But promotion, if you look at Steph, LeBron, and KD, the promotion between Steph and LeBron is here. KD's here. I don't know if he's presentable or marketable. I don't know what it is, but they have more commercials.
The dad thing that their parent, like their fathers, it kind of also with the LeBron conversation, because he has like a college age son and older kids, and Zuri's like 10 or 11 now. It like makes him like seem like a little bit older than he actually is. You look at KD.
And KD's not that young from them.
He's not, but when
he's not being pushed.
Right.
He's not being pushed over the limit. And you would think because he's a Nike guy, he's a champion, he came in with just as much hype as LeBron. You know, Texas and DC assault, all that stuff. It's like, well, why is KD not being seen as top 3 all time?
Because the media killed off the legacy when he left.
When he left, that's fucked up.
Went to
that's fucked up.
Golden State?
Because he could have eclipsed LeBron maybe 4 years ago.
But just like LeBron got clipped
when he went to Miami.
Yeah. Right?
Go back to Cleveland and win and like revitalize.
What happened is the NBA is holding, the media is holding a standard.
This is the way he takes
on 3 people. And it's not fair because the 3 people were in three main cities, right? You're in when the NBA is thriving, when the NBA is making their money, they are as big as possible, is if when the 3 king cities are powerhousing. Boston, Chicago, Lakers. When those 3 cities they got good teams, the NBA that's cash cow. Right? You can't have all 3 of them down. One has to be standing for the media to go. So think about every great player we done had. Where are their legacies?
One of those, in a major city.
Chicago, Austin, LA,
Angeles.
Right? When you talk about Derrick Rose is when Chicago was pumping, right? You talk about the Boston, you're talking about LA, Lakers, right? You're talking about legacy. So Kobe, right? You're talking about Magic, right? You're talking about all Lakers who never went anywhere. You're talking about Chicago. Michael Jordan don't need to go anywhere. You're talking about Bird. He don't need to go anywhere. Everyone wants to come to them. Right? So you're talking about, they never left. Why do they need to leave? Where are they going to go?
So that whole clip was about 3 minutes long, and you can break it down into 4 parts. That last part where you heard Gilbert Arenas speaking, that goes to what I was saying before the clip started, when I was saying that Gilbert Arenas is on a path to try to prop up new school, and mainly LeBron. You know, it's not just the new school he want to prop up, it's mainly LeBron, because LeBron, in a lot of people's eyes, especially media members that are older that watch Michael Jordan play and experienced it, he's been the opposition to them because they're so loud with why LeBron can't pass MJ, and Gilbert Arenas is trying to tear that wall down. Right. And it's not that he 100% believes that, it's because challenge accepted. That's the type of guy Gilbert Arenas is. Challenge accepted. I'm going to tear that wall down and I'm going to make it towards an even playing field. But if he ever get it to that even playing field, Gilbert Arenas will probably start speaking more common sense, and be honest about, the greatness of Michael Jordan, and how it, it's a disparity between him and anybody else. Right. We all know that, but this debate in this conversation is so I don't even know if it's necessary, but it helps get so many clicks, man. It's like you got to push that button every now and then, so this is just that part. I get to that last part about when he started capping for LeBron, but from the beginning part, there was a statement made, and Rashad McCants made the statement that when it's all said and done, we all go realize, and he said real hoopers will realize that Kevin Durant is better than LeBron James at basketball. Like, he's a better basketball player. And nobody gave any opposition to that. Nobody said they disagree or none of that. Everybody kind of nodded their head. Even Gilbert Arenas co-signed it. and gave an explanation, right? So the first statement was, I think Kevin Durant's better. And real hoopers know that, and will, it'll be evident when it's all said and done. He said not right now, but later. Why not right now? I actually think you can actually evaluate both players' game and come away with Kevin Durant being better. But you also gotta, once you start bringing in reputation, resume, all-time statistics, and storyline and all that stuff. Yeah, LeBron got the greater storyline. He's got the greater paper resume, all of that stuff. So when it comes down to that conversation of greatness and GOAT and where you rank on the GOAT list, Kevin Durant's going to take a major hit just based on storyline, paper resume, XYZ. I mean, even his time in Golden State, the 3 years he was there, even that time, it's kind of diminished. You could say he averaged 28 and 7 rebounds and 6 assists and won Finals MVP twice and carried the team. You can say all that, but the storyline were overshadow all of that. No matter what Kevin Durant did in Golden State, the storyline is you left OKC to go to Golden State to join Steph Curry. It was Steph Curry's team, X, Y, and Z. Oh, the storyline is going to kill that. And for Kevin Durant, when you talk to people who has been listening to the media a lot and have their opinions about Kevin Durant based on what they heard in the media, you would think Kevin Durant's career started in Golden State. So not only does Golden State get overshadowed by the storyline and the narrative that follows him, also what he did in OKC gets overshadowed as well. Like I'm gonna get overshadowed, it gets forgotten. Like forget the MVP season, forget what he did the year he didn't have Russ, forget being 23 and getting his team to the finals against a super team and what teams he took down in the West, Dirk, Kobe and the Lakers, and some big, maybe even Tim Duncan and Spurs. He took all those down to get to the finals, to lose in the finals to a super team. Even we forget that. He was 23 and his co-star was 20, 22, 21. And his other co-star, James Harden, coming off the bench, was about 22 as well. Very young. And you carried them to the finals, right? So forget that. So OKC doesn't exist. The Warriors gets overshadowed. And then everything out the Golden State is plagued by injuries and other circumstances that's not dealing with basketball. So we look at Kevin Durant through the lenses of a overshadowed Warriors 3-year span and a 4-year span after that of injury ridiculed, where he was either hurt, Kyrie was hurt, Harden was hurt, or Kyrie was suspended, or Harden was requesting a trade, or KD was requesting a trade. Then he got hurt again, went undermanned to the playoffs, got put out, and then of course that blemish of the Boston Celtics. Like that's how we view Kevin Durant, right? But if you take all that off and you actually just look at it from what it really is and evaluate his basketball game, I don't know if there's a better basketball player in the league right now, if you just evaluate basketball on both ends of the floor. So I'm with McCants on this statement. So after the statement, it was the question. Well, if we think Kevin Durant's this good, then how come he doesn't get the credit? How come he don't get talked about in a positive light? How come LeBron and Steph Curry get talked about like they're better? And the answer is going to be what Gilbert Arenas said. The media killed his career after he went to Golden State. The media spin on what Kevin Durant is as a player and what his legacy should be was started in the media from players who probably was pro LeBron or pro Steph or whatever the case may be, but that media still spins that same narrative, and that narrative still perpetuates, right? So there's the question, the statement of Kevin Durant is actually better than LeBron. The question is then, if we know that, how is he not getting the credit? And the answer was because the media spins the narrative that he shouldn't get the credit. The media spins the narrative that he should be seen in somewhat of a negative light, and if we ever compare him to LeBron and Steph Curry, we have to bring up the fact that he joined the Golden State Warriors and all that stuff. We got to bring his legacy down. So that's just what it is. That's what they're doing. So everyone kind of agreed with that and nodded their head, including Gilbert Arenas, but he had to spin it because, like I said, his mission is pro LeBron. His mission is pro new school. So he had to spin that into something that didn't even, like, where he took the conversation didn't even match where McCants was going with it or what he was talking about. It didn't even match it. He took it to all of a sudden, we're using the standard of three guys, and I think those three guys he was pertaining to was Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson. Like I guess he's basically saying that they're the standards, and there's nothing wrong with them being standards, right? That's we usually use the closest product to perfection as the standard. Like if I have a measuring stick and I make let's say I make rulers at a ruler factory, right? In order for me to know every ruler I make is exactly 1 foot long or 12 inches, whatever you want to say, I need every ruler to be that same size. I have to match it up and measure it to a standard that's as closest to 12 inches as possible, right? And this standard has to be maintained because it's close to perfection. So I measure everything off of that standard. That's what a standard is. So for you to say the standard is Magic, Michael, and Bird, well, hell, yeah, that's the standard. Like, what else gets closer to perfection than those three guys? So he's saying that the NBA media is using the standard of three guys, and he's saying it's unfair. He's saying it's unfair for everyone that comes after them to have to live up to that standard. That's basically what he's saying. So, and he said that it's unfair because those players were forced in the limelight by the NBA because they was in major cities like Boston, LA, and Chicago. And then he started to try to go down the lane of Michael Jordan. Let's diminish him a little bit and say that he didn't have to leave Chicago because everyone wanted to come to him because he was in the big city. Now, first of all, I want you to just think about Chicago as a basketball city and the Bulls as a basketball team before Michael Jordan, and tell me if there's just people wanted to come just because it was Chicago. Please, somebody please explain to me, is that what he really saying, that Chicago was just like this great place everybody wanted to go, right? Just a great place. We understand as far as basketball why Boston was, because they won. I mean, before the modern NBA started, Boston had already had daggone 13 championships, right? So the history is there. LA, the best place to play basketball as far as weather, and Hollywood is there, and the women and the lifestyle. So that's LA is already attractive, on top of the fact that they behind the Boston Celtics, and they probably had about 10 championships by the time Magic got there, right? So you got the two greatest stories, franchises, as far as establishing the NBA and establishing championship culture. LA and Boston was that. But on top of that, LA was a great destination spot geographically, just period. Chicago was neither of those. Chicago is not a place where you want to go, and it's not a storied franchise by the time Jordan gets there. So I don't know what the hell Gilbert Arenas is talking about. So, but let's just pretend like Chicago is just this great place that the NBA want to filter talent to, and everyone want to come join Michael Jordan. Who the hell came and joined Michael Jordan other than Rodman? And that was on the second three-peat. So this what he's trying to say, as far as all these people wanted to come play with Michael Jordan, how does that even apply when he didn't even bring in free agents, except the biggest free agent they got was Rodman, and he didn't come in free agency. That was a trade with Will Perdue. They traded Will Perdue to San Antonio for Dennis Rodman. San Antonio wanted to get rid of Rodman that bad. They said, man, bring us another center that we can't even start because we already got David Robinson. Give us a backup center that barely plays on the Bulls, because Cartwright started it. He couldn't even get minutes over Cartwright. Cartwright was better than him as a center. They had Cartwright, right? So so give us your backup center who barely plays and who can't beat out Cartwright for minutes. Give us them for Rodman. That's how expendable Rodman was. So, and it wasn't a free agent, it was a trade. Rodman ain't had no choice but to go to the Bulls. So please explain to me what point he's trying to make by saying that the Chicago Bulls was such a destination hotbed for free agents, that makes a difference in how we view Michael and LeBron. Because you're saying LeBron was in Cleveland and he couldn't get no free agents, and the NBA couldn't market Cleveland because it was Cleveland. This don't make no sense. It really don't make no sense, man. And I think Gilbert know that, but he throwing out good stuff out there with a little bit of truth with it, and then sound deep, and then put the lie on the end of it, and then it's a light bulb moment for someone who isn't thinking. Right. So yeah, I mean, on all fronts, that's just bogus. The Chicago Bulls, the NBA wanted them to succeed. Michael Jordan was already in a great place for NBA. It's a big city. Free agents want to come there, and the NBA wants to prop it up. That's not what happened at all. You know what I mean? So just show me the people that were just getting funneled to Chicago. Because from what I remember Larry Hughes showing up to Cleveland to play with LeBron. I remember Antoine Jameson showing up. I remember Shaq showing up. I remember D Wade, Derrick Rose showing up. I remember Isaiah Thomas coming via trade. I remember it's been a lot of people that were just getting funneled to Cleveland. A lot of people. Way more than what was coming to the Bulls. They drafted Horace, they drafted Pippen, they drafted Paxson, they drafted BJ Armstrong. They drafted Corey Blunt. They might have got Cartwright in free agency. Like, I just don't understand. Like, who's the big, like, he played with, they went and got Kukoc from overseas. Cleveland could have done it. Right? So they drafted Pippen. Pippen turns into his co-star. And like, you have to explain to me the point he's trying to make. How does it fit Chicago and Michael Jordan? I don't think it does. But that's my thoughts on Gilbert. As a matter of fact, I give you some bonus content on Gilbert because you got to pay attention to it. No matter what the conversation is going, he's going to try to turn it to some of the new school or LeBron, superiority, right? He's going to try to make the new school and LeBron seem superior to old school and Michael Jordan, right? Here's another conversation, and somebody shared this in on the Facebook group on Man Down. Go check out Man Down Facebook group. But they shared this and they tagged me, and they thought they asked me what do I think about it, and I was like, you know what, I might tell you what I think about it. But here's Gilbert Arenas trying to do that same trick, and here's how it turned out. This is how it sounded.
Gary Payton, first 4 years in the league, he was shooting 20%. He shot 125 threes. They moved the line 2 feet. He shot 915 threes in the next 3 years.
Whoa.
This is when I knew they needed scoring. They were just holding the ball. They couldn't,
that's big.
Man, that's
wild, bro.
All right, if you're a defensive player and someone yanks you every single time down the court, how are you awarded defense? Yeah, because he can't shoot now.
Yeah.
How much did you average in the 90s?
In the 90s?
Yeah.
100. There's only one and a half scores on every team. So when you're talking about the Bulls, all the balls just went to Michael Jordan. So he's taking all the shots. So if you're telling me that I'm taking all the shots with my skill set and these guards with 28-inch vertical, what am I dealing with here? Gary?
So here you go again. And what he said to some people sounds profound. It sounds great, right? But then when it doesn't withstand the smallest amount of scrutiny, right? It doesn't withstand. So let's start with first of all, he's all over the place because what his premise is also giving credit to how good the defense was in the 90s, right? So he's saying he's at the same time he's saying the defense was so good they had to move the 3-point line in 2 feet so they can get more scoring. But then at the same time he's also saying the defense was horrible, which is weird. So he's saying the defense was horrible. He would have averaged 100. He was saying that, so he don't even know what he's trying to say, and the people that's listening don't know what he's trying to say, because at the same time he's saying scoring would have been easy because they only had one scorer per team. He said 1.5, so a star and a co-star, and that's where you get your points from. And there was a lot of defense, and they held the ball a lot. It was a slow pace. They didn't shoot a lot of threes, all that stuff, right? So, and this was something the NBA was tracking because they had a 10-year span where scoring was dipping, right? So if you a perfect world, the balance of offense would be here and defense would be here. You want it to be even. You don't want to give one advantage over the other. You want enough offense and enough defense, because that's both part of basketball. We want to see both, right? So I think the NBA was saying that the defense was so good that scoring was continually declining every year for the last 10 years. And they was trying to figure out ways to get more scoring. Like, as far as they look at the final score, and it's 75 to 78. That's the final score. And they was like, well, we want the scores to be in the hundreds. What do we need to do? Well, maybe if they hit more threes, they thought it would do a couple of things. And you can Google this. Rob Thorne was making these decisions at the time for the NBA. And he was on record before they made the change, telling them that they was monitoring the decline in scoring every year for the last 10 years, and they wanted to get more scoring in the NBA. That's why they moved the three-point line. Gilbert Arenas won't tell you that part, right? So they moved the three-point line because they wanted more or higher scoring for the NBA, because they felt scoring was exciting for ratings, and people want to see scoring more than they want to see defensive battles, right? And that goes across all sports. Right. So they said, man, move the 3-point line 2 feet in. It was 23.9 inches, 23 feet 9 inches, and they moved it to 22 feet. Right. So the corners are always the short threes. The corners are at 22 feet already, but around the arc was 23, and the top of the key was probably, it was 23. Right. So they moved it in where the arc was a little closer. So the arc was the same as the corner. The arc was 22. So the corners and the arc are 22, but I think the top of the key might have still been 23.9. I had to double check that, but you can Google this. These are facts, right? So they experimented that way for three years, and yes, Michael Jordan's 3-point percentage went up. So did Steve Kerr's. I think he shot 50% from three. So he had the record for a while until Kyle Korver broke it. And the example he used of Gary Payton, saying that the first 4 years he was in the league, he shot 20%, which is true. He was a horrible shooter. He shot bad everywhere. He shot 50% within that 4-year span. He shot 50% from the free throw line one time. Right. So he was never a good shooter. And you can tell by his shot mechanics, even when he became a decent shooter, you can tell by his shot mechanics that this was work. It took time for him to become that. Same with Jason Kidd. Jason Kidd was not a good shooter. People would let him shoot threes all day long. By the time he got, I'll say, to Phoenix, maybe, he started knocking him down. And that definitely when he got older, he was a really good 3-point shooter. His last couple of years and with the Knicks and the championship year he won with the Dallas Mavericks, he was a really good 3-point shooter. But we know the history of J. Kidd. He came in the league not being able to shoot. Same with same with Gary Payton. So even if they didn't move the 3-point line, like what Gary Payton is trying to, all right, so he's trying to use the premise of the 3-point line being moved was because people couldn't score. But he won't say why they couldn't score, because the defense was good. Right? He's not gonna say that, but that's what it was. That they played good defense. And it was hard to score. It was a physical game. So he's trying to say that they moved the 3-point line because people couldn't shoot, and there was not enough scores on the team, so they tried to help him out, right? And then he's trying to connect that to Gary Payton's progression as a shooter. You come in as a rookie and you got 4 years. Most rookies don't shoot their best when they first come in, unless you're a really, really good shooter. But most people who just can't shoot, like Gary Payton couldn't shoot, and you come in the league, your first 4 years is probably going to be your worst shooting years. So naturally, after year 4, your shot mechanics should be better. and your percentage should be higher, which it was. So if you want to credit the 3-point line being moved to why Gary Payton started knocking down threes, you can. But what you don't get allowed to do is once they move the 3-point line back to its original spot 3 years later, if it was true that Gary Payton was benefited just by the 3-point line being moved closer, then you would expect to see his numbers and percentages drop once they move it back to the original spot. And they didn't. They continued to get better. So his Gary Payton's example and trying to use that to back what the point he was trying to make, that already fell by the wayside. The Gary Payton thing is gone. You know, you bad your first 4 years as a shooter. They move the 3-point line, then you get better at shooting. Then they move the 3-point line back to the original spot, and you still get better at shooting. That shows me that Gary Payton was actually working on his shot, regardless of where the 3-point line was at, and he was getting better with his shot every year. The 3-point line probably, if it did benefit him by getting closer, it wasn't like what he was saying, where it was like the sole purpose why his percentages went up. If that was the case, they would have went back down when they moved it back to the original spot. So that's the first thing. The second thing, is then now let me bring it to Michael Jordan. He had to bring it to Michael Jordan some type of way, you know, and try to say, you know, they only had 1.5 scores on the team. So they was going to Michael Jordan for all the points. If I'm going to one guy for all the points, then obviously that means he's I don't even know what point he's trying to make, to be honest with you. Like what was he trying to say with this Michael Jordan thing? That's how it gets weird. Like I just told you in the first clip, the conversation was about KD being better than LeBron James, and then he took it to how this means something about Jordan and started talking about Jordan in Chicago. I just don't understand how all roads lead to Jordan in these conversations, and he tried to make a point off of that, right? So he wants people to really believe Michael Jordan was not as great as a scorer as that we know he was, and he tries to find anything to try to discredit him as a scorer. And then like he's saying that he would have scored 100 in this era, you know. So I guess he think that because if Michael Jordan was the best scorer in the 90s, right, and Gilbert Arenas was a good scorer in the 2000s, I guess he's saying if he would have went to the 90s, he would have been a better scorer than Michael Jordan. That's basically what he's saying. If Michael Jordan averaged 35, 40, and he's saying he would have averaged 100, like Wilt was saying, Wilt didn't even do that in the 60s. He's saying that he would have went and would have been more dominant in the 90s than Wilt was in the 60s. That's basically what he's saying. And you know, I know he's being facetious because he's not going to average 100, but he's saying he would destroy. And you know, it's so easy. That's why I'm glad Kobe existed, and I'm glad he was so close to Michael Jordan, because you get to see what Jordan would have looked like and more, because we do all acknowledge that Michael Jordan is better than Kobe. If Kobe is exactly like Michael Jordan but a little bit less, and he dominated the 2000s, you can't possibly think that Michael Jordan wouldn't also dominate and dominate in a bigger way than what Kobe did. And if Gilbert Arenas couldn't outscore Kobe in his era, then what make him think he would outscore Michael Jordan in his era? It just don't make sense. But that's Gilbert for you. That's how he do it. That's how he do his stuff, man. But you got to be able to decipher that. But y'all let me know what y'all think in the comment section. And yeah, just let me know, man. I pretty much gave you 3 topics in one, you know, because Gilbert Arenas kind of took it there. But yeah, you got a lot to talk about. That's Kevin Durant. Do you acknowledge him as being a better basketball player than LeBron James, regardless if you think he's greater? I think that's different. I think being greater includes other things that are non-basketball, other things that are, you know, that include your storyline, that includes your reputation, all that stuff. Yeah, I get at the LeBron all day long, but when it comes to evaluating like a scout 2 players based on strengths and weaknesses, abilities, and what they can't do, I think it grades out more on the side of Kevin Durant, that he's a better basketball player than LeBron. But I'm interested to hear what y'all think in the comment section about that, and then let me know what you think about Gilbert Arenas and and how he continues to try to discredit the old school and Michael Jordan specifically. And y'all let me know what you think in the comment section.